Norman Foster for Tower 2.
Wow, okay. So I wonder if you just use others, you know, that like you use the same in different buildings, since you know who you like.
We vary it.
Everything, okay.
Yeah, we vary, depending upon the building and so forth.
So I'm going to ask you a lot of the questions I've already asked you, so there could be some, you know.
That's okay. That's all right.
Ready? Okay, yeah, we're ready. Okay. And my hair's okay like this, right? Up. You don't like it? My hair's okay like this.
How's that? Okay.
The farther away, the better. Okay.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah, sure.
You guys are rolling, right? Larry, thank you so much for sitting down with us today and for giving us this incredible view. Congratulations. We are now at the 1 year mark for 3 World Trade Center.
That's correct.
The building that we're in right now. It's got to feel good for you.
It feels very satisfying. I'm very proud.
Tell me about the last year in terms of finding the tenants, you know, making sure to come as close to filled up as possible. You were somewhat surprised that you had such demand, right?
I was surprised because there's no shortage of office space going up in Manhattan today. But much to my surprise and delight is the fact that we had Group M come along. They looked at our trading floors and they said, "How many do you have?" And I said 5, and they said, "We'll take all 5." Now, to have an advertising company take 5 trading floors and office space, several floors of office space above it, it took 800,000 feet in the building. They are the anchor tenant for the building. Surprised me totally, because the assumption we made is that a financial company would come in and require the trading floors for whom we built and designed them. Right? Not the case. So Group M came in, looked at it, took it all, and it's a reflection of the fact that today technology has taken such an immensely important role in all of our lives, and so Group M is dependent upon technology, as are most major corporate users today.
Yeah.
So most of the office buildings in New York, which are 80 years of age, 70 years of age, 60 years of age, trying to retrofit those buildings with technological requirements is almost impossible. Totally inconvenient and hugely costly. When you put those technological advances into these buildings day one when they're under construction, it's a piece of cake by comparison.
Incredible. So tell me about the technology and what leasers want today in an office space in terms of tech.
They want every conceivable technological advance available to them. They want to be able to use it. And so it's probably just a question of time until the 5G technology takes over from where today's technology is. But it gives them access to so much material in such a short period of time. It's almost hard to conceive of what's going to happen when 5G comes along and accelerates that pace. But how we can do anything faster than we're currently doing, I don't know. But then again, 88 years of age, I have my limitations. Younger people, totally different, right? So these buildings, as a result, are filled with the latest technology. They're filled with young people. I think the average age ranges from 28 to 32. And so totally past my level of comprehension in terms of what they do and how they do it. The one thing I do know is that we give it to them all. It's all built into these buildings. They have complete access to it on a 24/, 7-hour basis, the day they come in and thereafter. So
Isn't it nice that you walk out of the building and you see so many young people, and
Yes,
you
it
see
is.
baby carriages, and you see families? Even you moved downtown.
Well, the fascinating thing is we were surrounded by people our age, 88 in my case. My wife is 86. So moving from Park Avenue at 59th Street, we're just surrounded by our old age people. Coming down here, I just assumed that the costly apartments that we built at the Four Seasons Hotel above it would be occupied by people of our age, because I assumed only people of our age could afford it. Not so. The building is filled with young families, young baby carriages. As a matter of fact, a woman walked out the other day. She came into the elevator. I looked at her and I said, "When do you do?" She said, "Momentarily." 2 weeks later, she was wheeling a baby carriage with a newborn child.
How beautiful.
But that's all over our building. Young families occupying the space that I thought old people would tend to utilize. Not so. Young, exciting, a pleasure to talk to, vital, and very different from, from what we're used to.
And they're spending money and they're investing and they're
Yes,
active.
yes.
We are close to the 80th floor, 76,
Yes.
and we are overlooking the 9/11 Museum.
That's
so we
correct,
see
yes.
that that was the North Tower, that was the South
That's
Tower,
correct. The footprints of the North and South Towers,
yeah,
respectively.
and the park.
Yeah, and it's an 8-acre park, which is, I think, a beautiful memorial park. I think it came out extremely well and appropriate, right? Totally appropriate. And it's part of the rebuilt World Trade Center. So what we have here today is totally different, unrecognizable from my perspective of what was here when we first bought the Twin Towers before 9/11.
Take me back to July of 2001. You complete the largest real estate transaction, a 99-year lease to buy the Trade Center, the World Trade Center.
And I was only 70 years of age at that time, so a 99-year lease was a little bit optimistic.
And what happened next?
Well, what
was
happened next is history.
Obviously, a tragedy for all of us.
Yes, and so it changed all of our lives.
What
And so-
happened? Take me back to that time. Where were you when the towers first were hit?
Actually, Maria, I was at home and getting dressed to come down because I spent every day subsequent to my taking title to the Twin Towers in July of '01. I would spend my mornings at a breakfast meeting at Windows with tenants, different tenants in the buildings, and then I'd visit the tenant spaces down below. So my mornings, every morning, was spent here at the Trade Center. That particular morning, my wife looks at me, she said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm getting dressed to go down. I've got appointments down at the Trade Center." She said, "You can't go." I said, "Why can't I go?" She said, "I made an appointment for the dermatologist, and you missed last month, and you missed the month before." And she said, "You cannot miss another month. You must go."
Oh my God.
So she starts getting excited, upset. And when you're married to the same woman for 45 years, which we were then married, and she gets angry and upset, the first thing I said was, "Please, don't get angry, don't get upset. I'll do whatever you want. Don't get angry, please. The words are yes, dear. Tell me what you want me to do, I'll do it." She saved my life. Simple.
What a horrible day that was for all of us.
Yes.
I was down
Yeah.
here on Wall Street as
Yeah.
well and watched the second plane. That's why after the towers got hit, it was a very hard period for everybody.
Yes.
Obviously the victims mostly and their
Yes.
families.
Yes.
But you had to wait before you made your next move in terms of building these towers up. I mean, years.
Yes, with one exception. The exception was 7 World Trade Center, which I had acquired about almost 20 years before 9/11 on a separate lease, independent from the Trade Center itself. From the Port Authority, yes, but they leased that space to me to build a 2 million square foot office building on the original 7 World Trade Center.
So 7 was the first to go back up.
It was the first to go back up. Con Edison had a major power substation in the base of the building, and they needed desperately to have that power substation rebuilt. And so,
I like the way they did the park because it really honors the victims with their names around the, well, would you call it a pool or?
well, I'd call actually the reflecting pools
The reflecting pool.
in the North Tower and the South Tower. And I actually, the space itself was laid out as part of a master plan designed by Dan Liebeskind. And he was brought in by the governor of the state of New York. There was a competition. He won the competition, chosen by Governor Pataki at that time, to do the master plan for the site. And so what he designed was the 8-acre park that you see here today, and then the sites for the different office buildings around the 8-acre park, and the site for the memorial, for the mass transit facility, subsequently designed by Santiago Calatrava. And so we refer to that today as the Oculus. It's a mass transit facility, and there's about 500,000 feet of shops in that facility. And so what you've got is the execution of the Liebeskind master plan. So my job as the leaseholder to choose the different architects and design the buildings. And so we chose for Tower 1, David Childs, and subsequently, because he did such a good job on 7, I asked him to do Tower 1. And then thereafter, Fumihiko Maki to do Tower 4, Richard Rogers to do Tower 3, Norman Foster to do Tower 2. Each of these gentlemen, Pritzker Prize winners, each of them had major buildings around the globe, to their credit, and outstanding buildings at that. And so after 9/11, my wife and I visited buildings built by Maki because we saw his work, minimalist architect, spectacularly. I thought it was beautiful. And we chose him to do Tower 4, a 2.2 million foot building. And then I chose Richard Rogers to do Tower 3, looked at his buildings around the globe, and became easy to make the choice for Rogers. And the same for Norman Foster with respect to Tower 2. So world-class architects, Pritzker Prize winners, and magnificent buildings that I thought work well together. Notwithstanding the fact that each building is designed independently of the other, but they relate to each other and work with each other.
And how about the museum and park? I mean, I like the idea that nothing is built on top of those pools because, of course, we will never forget. We will never forget.
Well, the design of the Memorial Park was I forget the name of the Dara. Who designed the Memorial Park?
Michael Arad
And
Peter Walker.
and Peter. So the Memorial Park was designed by Michael Arad. He won the competition for the park, and he collaborated with Peter Walker to do for the trees, the plantings, and so forth. So that combination produced the 9/11 Memorial Park that we're looking at today. And then Snowhead, a Scandinavian design firm, was chosen to design the 9/11 Memorial Museum. And that triangular-shaped building you see down below is to their credit.
Larry, were you surprised when you started to see the demand coming up? Were you surprised that, you had the tenants that wanted to come back downtown? It was hard for a couple of years. People didn't want to be here at all. You've spent, 18 years rebuilding this area?
It's been a little bit of a challenge. Truthfully, it's been a challenge of 10 lifetimes. But the important thing is it worked. We got it done, or almost done. There's one building left to go. That's Tower 2. But these buildings filled up. And it's testimony to the fact that if you build it, they will come, right? You build well-located buildings, good quality architecture, good quality design, and price it reasonably, they'll come.
But there's also been a resurgence of downtown. So
Yes.
you're not just seeing this area up and coming, but you're seeing the remaining areas around here, the nearby areas, because people see activity once again downtown New York.
And as a result, you have a tripling of the residential population down here. You have, I think we built 8,000 or 9,000 hotel rooms down here. The Four Seasons is something we decided to do independently of the Trade Center. But we had a little bit of time one afternoon. We ended up buying a piece of land and decided to put up a Four Seasons hotel with condos at the top. And ultimately, here we are. We moved into it, and it's wonderful.
Let me switch gears, ask you, broadly speaking, how you see real estate today. Because I know in the boom days of years ago, you had the Russians, you had the Middle Easterners, you had the Chinese putting big money into New York. Have the Chinese pulled back, given the fight with the U.S. now on trade?
The Chinese have pulled back. The oligarchs seem to have vanished. And so, interestingly, if you look at the funds,
The sovereign wealth funds?
The sovereign wealth funds, with multiple trillions of dollars of money to invest in hard assets, real estate. Anytime I get to speak to them, to the heads of those funds, the principals, they always say, I always ask them, where do you want to put your money? And they always say, United States, because it's safe. They know it's safe. They know that they know we have a system of laws. Their real estate is protected. Their investments are protected. Then the next question is, where in the United States? New York is their first request. Where in New York? Manhattan. That's number one. Then they move to Washington, they move to Boston, they move to Los Angeles, and other parts of the country.
So what are you seeing then? I mean, there's all this conversation happening right now that a recession is on the horizon. Look at the inverted yield curve. The Federal Reserve just recently said, look, we stand ready to act to cut rates. Do you see a recession on the horizon?
Honestly, I don't. But then again, I'm a little bit of an optimist. I tend to look at things with rose-colored glasses. But as I also look around, I see much of America doing well. The economy, much of the economy is strong and doing well, producing. I mean, look at the job market. The job market is really nothing short of remarkable. In addition to which, I think we're on the precipice of doing some remarkable things in this country. Ultimately, there will be a solution for infrastructure, and when that's offered, it will produce billions of dollars, maybe trillions of dollars, into infrastructure development around the country. There's nothing like infrastructure to stimulate the economy. It's always been the case. It will be the case again. And certainly the infrastructure in this country desperately needs doing. So that, I think, is next on the horizon.
So are
And
you
it'll come.
planning on being part of that? You're going to participate in infrastructure build across the country?
I would like to. Of
course.
But then again, I'm only 88, so that's something to think about.
Well, it does seem that both sides in Washington can work together on
Yes.
this.
Oh, absolutely.
But we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
It's been tough. What about the Federal Reserve? Do you think they're going to cut rates this year?
I don't think it's going to be necessary, but if they do, I'd have no violent objection.
Sure.
Perfectly happy
Well,
to see
you've got to
them do it.
raise money, and you've got to
Yes.
get tenants in. You
Yes.
want to see low rates.
Yes. What,
But
low rates are obviously very conducive to increased business activity, on which we're all dependent. So I'd love to see
so
it.
tell me what you're seeing out there in terms of the economic backdrop right now.
I see an economic backdrop that is stable. I see unemployment remaining where it is. I see the push, the inexorable push for more health care. That stimulates our economy. There's an enormous amount of people working in the world, in the field of healthcare in the United States today. I think that's going to increase with time, which will benefit economic activity. I think manufacturing, slowly but surely, I think you're going to see increase in manufacturing in the United States. And I think the trade wars that are going on today, the issues with China, the issues with Mexico, and many of the allied countries, I think those will ultimately dissipate because I think rational thinking will ultimately prevail, and the issues that we're facing today that are calamitous in terms of its impact on the stock market, I think those will wend their way to solution. And as solutions develop, the stock market will reflect those solutions. So my sense is America will continue to improve in terms of economic activity. I think you're going to see huge amounts of infrastructure money being invested throughout the country. I think you'll see lots of additional money somehow channeled into education for young people, because that's a hugely important aspect of everything we do for
sure.
tomorrow.
So tell me about the tenants that have come into this building, and in one, and then you've got 7, obviously. We saw Group M, the big advertising company. You thought you were going to get a trading firm, an investment firm. You ended up getting an advertising media company. Who else are the big tenants here? Who's spending money to come downtown?
Well, several of them have spent significant amounts of money. So you look around, you see the tenants to whom we've leased space. You see different networks, different groups of the different TAMI groups, the technology, the advertising, the media, the information service, and so forth. They're all coming, and as a result, the changes that have taken place are enormous, because their employees invariably are young people, late 20s, early 30s, is what we're seeing here in Lower Manhattan.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, we have the highest work-live ratio as a result in the United States down here, Lower Manhattan. We've got 27% of the people who live here work here. It's the highest in the entire country.
Huh.
And so, but that's all young.
I like that they could live in the same area that they work. But I think it's interesting, the makeup of tenants, because back in the boom days, you had a lot of financial services companies. They were moving in, the banks, the brokers. Now you've got a much broader array of companies, media, advertising, technology,
McKinsey.
healthcare,
It's at McKinsey, it's world-class
consulting
firm, right? They're moving their headquarters into this building upstairs. So, and several 100,000 feet of space. And so you just look around at the quality of the tenants who are coming, and it's very gratifying.
So is it more U.S. money than international money? More U.S. than, obviously, China, you said a minute ago.
Yeah.
More U.S. than Russia.
Yeah, unquestionably. It's mostly United States investment. U.S. companies, U.S. interests are here, and they're coming here, and it just seems to come and come and come.
What do you worry about, Larry? What do you worry about should be sort of the red flags to say, okay, I think we're seeing cracks in this economic boom? Because, you know, we are going on 10 years of this economic expansion.
The fact that we're going on 10 years, I don't think of itself as control.